Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It is your Caped Crusader, Cody, and we are keeping it geekly with our brand new friend, Nandor Shaffer. We're here to break down Man-Child issue 1 and 2 and everything in between. Welcome to the stream. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing excellent, Cody. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk Man-Child and all of my books, and yeah, it's an exciting month for me right now, so I'm pumped.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, first things first, though, we were talking backstage, and you let me know that you had a rather extensive, catalog of things that you've worked on. So, what was really your first, couple of steps into creating comics?
Yeah, I started making comics, writing comics when I was 17. I remember vividly it being a New Year's Eve, I believe, of 2015, and I was I had just finished high school, and I was wondering, okay, what do I want to do with my life?
You finished high school when you were 17?
I did.
Let's go. That's impressive, man.
Yeah. So I did that, and my parents were like, you don't have to go to college right away. You can kind of take some time, since you have some time, and you don't have to just run right into it. And so I took some time, and I was like, okay, I want to kind of figure out what I want to do. I still decided to go to college for a year, but while I was there, I was going for creative writing. While I was there, I was working on this story called Seasons. And so to my right here, there's Seasons Volume 1 and Seasons Volume 2. So what became Seasons started with this book here. This is the first book, Volume 1, Spring. So I was thinking about what I wanted to do, and I was writing this book at the same time I was going to school, but I knew I wanted to be a writer. That's something I knew I wanted to do from a very early age. I think about when I was even 13 or 14, I wanted to write blogs and journalism. That was something I was really interested in, was journalism. But as I got older, I started to appreciate storytelling more and more, and I started to realize how storytelling has affected me as a person so much, by if it's movies or TV or film, or documentaries and comics and music. And I'm also a musician, so I've always had this creative outlet. I've always liked creating things, but I never wrote stories as a kid. I never wrote short stories or anything like that. So Seasons, what became Seasons, was something that I started as an experiment, and also to figure out, can I actually write a comic book? What would it look like if I did write a comic book? What kind of story could I tell if I did a comic book? And I was just playing with it. And then it got really exciting for me. And I thought, I really have to see this through. And so I started I hired an artist. I started putting it online for free for people to read. And I was getting a really good response from it. And then I just kept going and crowdfunded the first book, and kind of found my way into the indie comics community just through a natural process of wanting to get my stories out there.
No, that is so awesome. We have CM Holy over on Twitch, some late night indie comic greatness right here. Ichthus over on YouTube, stopping in to say what is up, total excellence, and two of my favorite people in this panel. Welcome, guys. Thank you for stopping by the interview. So how was that transition going from journalism to something that you were able to have full creative control over? I mean, because those are almost two different mediums. It feels like, journalism, you're covering something, and then with this, you're actually able to tell the stories you want to tell.
Yeah, and see, that was it. I came to that point where I was really tired of I'm super thoughtful with my writing, and even when I was writing about other, covering things and writing about other things, it always took a lot out of me, a lot of energy, a lot of time, a lot of effort and thought. And I just thought, these will last for maybe a few weeks or a month of being interesting to people. and I was like, I'm tired of just writing things that um, kind of get forgotten or lost, and you know, the excess of what content there is in the world. And I was like, I want to create something. I want to make something that lasts and make something that affects people. And because stories have changed my life, they've like molded me
Hmm.
into the person that I am. And I was like, I want to give back. I want to give that to people. I want them to stay up late reading, you know, a story that I wrote and go, oh my gosh, like this really affected me. This is making me think about myself, life, other people, the kind of person I want to be, the kind of person I used to be, you know,
Hmm.
relating to people in that way. And I just knew I had like something to say. I was looking for something to say, and there was I'm a very like introspective person, and I have just come across a lot of interesting people. Even though I'm really young, I really find people fascinating and learning about their
Hmm.
stories. And so I wanted to explore that and like investigate what that is. And stories to me are just like the best way to connect with people, because you know, a story, it's like that's what you connect. Like fandoms are about stories, and they're about connecting with people in that story. And like, you know, oh, you love that character, you love that plot line, or when that happens in that movie, that's when everyone goes nuts. And that's something that I think just really drives me, is that connection with other people and with things that I love, and giving that to people.
No, that is that I can definitely respect wanting to leave a piece of you, like for people to like remember you by for like eternity. Like that's what, you know, Stan Lee and Jack
Yeah.
Kirby did, and I think that is such an awesome way to do it. I mean, let's hear some of those comics that really impacted you. You know, what comics really, you know, I guess showed you that like, this is what you want to do.
Right. Man, there are a handful that just were instrumental in kind of molding me into the creator I am. And one of them that comes to mind is James O'Barr's The Crow.
Hmm.
That was a book that I'd always kind of heard about. You know, as a kid, it was like I'd seen it around and people talked about it. But I remember the first time actually sitting down and reading it. And I read it in one sitting, and knowing the story behind that comic and how that was a part of his grieving process for the person that he loved. And how beautiful it was, how like tragically beautiful the book is. And I read that in one sitting, and I was just like, this is like one of the greatest stories I think I've ever read, you know, and it's a
Hmm.
comic, you know, and it's like, and that, you know, I feel like a lot of people uh, won't, you know, a lot of people are going to miss out on that because it is a comic. And that is like a problem for me, you know, like that's a problem. The people that like won't pick up a comic because they're like, oh, it's a comic book.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not like it is, but like, you know, get that out of your head, you know, get that stigma out of your head and think like this is a really moving, powerful story. And so that was one. And then I've always been huge into superheroes, and I really got into buying comics on a monthly basis when Brubaker was on Captain America, and Jonathan Hickman was on the Fantastic Four book. And that was like incredibly uh, just a perfect time for someone like me to learn about these characters from the perspective of these really great writers that are injecting new life into them, you know,
Hmm.
and everything felt like it was kind of upholding the legacy of the characters, but it was moving them in a really exciting new direction. And I just remember reading Hickman's Fantastic Four and being like, man, he teased this like 20 issues ago, and then he pays it off like 20 issues later. And I was like, how did he do that? That's so like mind blowing to me. And not a lot of writers do that either, because, and I get why they don't, because, you know, you have to, uh, it seems like the mainstream comics, you know, they always want new readers. And so every month could be someone's like first comic. And I totally get that. But, um, it was really satisfying for me as a reader that had been following it to be rewarded for
Hmm.
following it and for sticking with it, and to really trust the writer, and the writer being like, please trust me, I'm going to pay this off at some point. And it was so like intricate, and I really was inspired by that. And then also, I think the third biggest one was reading Scott McCloud's The Sculptor, and his like understanding comics, and his Zot stuff that he did in the early days, and just Scott McCloud as a person, learning about how he grew up, and the kind of comics that he wanted to make, because he hasn't made a lot of comics, but the comics he has made has just like revolutionized the way we
Hmm.
kind of think about them. And that, to me, that's when I was like, this is an insanely creative and um, uh, so much depth to this medium of comic books and sequential art that you just get lost in it. I really got lost in it, and I wanted to like, tear out my own little
Yeah.
corner and be like, here, like this is my stuff. So
Hmm. We have Ichthus, Man-Child is awesome book that really captures Silver Age storytelling in modern times. I think that really brings me to a really good question too. So about, Man-Child, how was that transition going from like Seasons and your previous works to Man-Child? Did we see any similarities in writing, or was Man-Child kind of your first venture into this like type of storytelling?
it really was. What's interesting about Man-Child is I feel like it's because it is telling two stories at the same time. It's following this modern day comic book fan named Rufus, and then this Silver Age inspired superhero character named the Monarch-Crier. And it was the first time I had written a real superhero story, and also anything that was akin to the way classic superhero stories were told. And then
Hmm.
the but the modern day stuff, I feel like is close enough to like Seasons and my other book Lifeline, where it was just very, I like writing very human stories. I like really getting into the psychology of people and why they do the things they do in relationships, and how things that affect people like have a ripple effect to others. And so Man-Child has that ingredient with the Rufus story. But when it comes to the superhero stuff, that was the hardest stuff for me to write. Those were the hardest sequences for me to write, because um, you really have to. I really had to like get rid of all of that introspective human stuff and really like have fun. Like I needed to
Hmm.
learn how to write something that is fun and really exciting and doesn't spend too much time, of people that are having these hardships and going through these hard things. So, because that's just what I gravitate to. I like really sad stuff, I like really like melancholy, like
Yeah.
sad songs, and movies that just tear your heart out. And so I had to get rid of that. And even though I love superhero stories and I love being inspired, but just as a writer, that's sort of what I gravitate to. But so with the superhero stuff, it was like learn how to have fun, and I was learning how to do that, and it was like so challenging because there's so much more to explore when it comes to the words you use. And I especially wanted to capture the way Stan Lee used to write, and how incredibly uh, his vocabulary was just insane, and he
Hmm.
was able to write so much and uh, use so many like interesting words. And so when I was going back and doing research for the book and reading a lot of the older like issues of Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and Hulk, and all of the like the first few issues of those runs, it was like, man, like no one writes like this anymore. Like it was a part of that era. It was the way you used to write comics at the time, and it's just changed so much.
So why do you think that is though? Like just, as a writer yourself, what do you think caused that transition?
Um, I think a lot of it came from uh, I think comics at that time, they didn't I don't think they realized how much the art tells the story rather than the writing. And I think, Lee and Kirby were in this moment where it was like this crossroads moment of comics where it's like, okay, we're trying to figure out how to write these really fun stories, but these really human stories at the same
Hmm.
time, and appeal to kids, but hopefully catch adults too. I mean, but and so they were navigating that, and then I think as we got further and further, and comics became, I guess, more adult or respected in that way, where the kids that were reading that got older in the 80s, and then comics got like more mature, and I think they started to realize just how much more that it's showing and not telling. Because when you read a lot of Stan's work, it's a lot of telling. It's really interesting, because you open up, if you open up, like it'll take you sometimes, it took me like sometimes like 5 to 10 minutes to go to like finish one page that Stan Lee wrote in like a classic comic, because of all the text and all the thought balloons and all of the
Hmm.
dialogue. And then you go to like a modern day comic, and there might be like three or four like little, dialogue moments, and it's like, okay, it, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just an interesting difference that you notice how comics have evolved over the
Yeah,
years.
yeah. It
And
seems like such a weird balance too. It almost feels like it should be more like 50-50, but it seems like it's leaning heavier and heavier towards the art more and more.
yeah, yeah, and it's weird being like the writer, because like I like to write a lot too. I'm pretty I have to cut a lot when I'm putting when I get the letters back from the letterer, and they're like, okay, this is what everything looks like. I'm like, man, like that's like too much. I need to cut some things because I kind of overwrite,
Hmm.
which is probably better than underwriting, just because you're able to see what exactly works and what doesn't, and if there are just some things that trim the fat off of it. But it's it's something that like I had to learn too, of like be I had to go against the grain with the Monarch-Crier, the superhero sequences, because I was like, I know this is going to be a little like breaking the rules for these sequences, because it's about showing and not telling, but I'm trying to make the reader feel like they're reading a Stan Lee comic. So the only way to do that is to write a lot and to like put
Hmm.
it all in there. And so that was the fun part of it, because I got to kind of indulge my vocabulary and wanting to be very like exciting with how I would write it.
So, with all of this, how do we see that come together with issue one? I mean, because we're going to be talking about the campaign for issue one and issue two, but without spoiling too much, what happens in issue one that leads us to issue two?
Yeah, so we meet our characters in issue one. It's a primer for what the series is going to be, and Rufus has just experienced the death of his favorite comic book creator, and this creator in the comic is called Stu Leeds. So it's Stan Lee basically,
Hmm.
and so it's he's sort of a stand-in for myself and my grieving process that I went through after Stan Lee passed away. And that's really where this story came from, was wanting to do something in Stan's honor. And so Rufus has just experienced this loss of this hero of his, and the title of the first issue is The Day the Superhero Died. And it's meant to be a little kind of tip of the hat to American Pie, that song by Don McLean, of like the day the music died, and that sense of like someone who captured like the essence of what comics and superheroes are, and what made them what they are today. And
Hmm.
so Rufus is going through that process, and he's hanging out with his friends at the comic book store, and he goes through some of his own personal troubles, and you get to kind of learn more about his I guess his friends and kind of the life that he lives. It's not he's very stuck in his ways, and so we learn that about him, and we throughout the series we'll see little instances of like looking at the comic book culture through different lenses, and how the beauty of fandom, but also like the some of the pitfalls that might come when you lean too much into escapism and kind of living in like a wanting to live in a fantasy world when there's reality right in front of you, and reality can be exciting. So that's something that Rufus is dealing with. And the Monarch-Crier, he's being attacked by these white fly drones that the arch villain Professor Pilgrim has sent to attack him and attack New York City. And he's trying to save his fiancee Joanne from these white fly drones, and he's instantly out of nowhere transported. And as you're reading the first issue, you're like, where did he get transported to? And he's not able to save the love of his life. He doesn't know like what's happened to her, because he was right like inches away from saving her, and then he's transported away from her. So he as we get to issue 2, Rufus and his friends are about to go see the biggest superhero movie of the year, and we find out where Monarch-Crier has been transported to and why
awesome.
He's there. Yeah. So it follows up. It picks up right where we left off with his story.
If Rufus was, and the creator that passed away in the comic was like some sort of representation of you, what was the Monarch-Crier symbolism for?
Well, he's a symbol of course, that like 60s Silver Age hero, kind of the epitome of what that is. But he's also a symbol of metamorphosis and change. And I kind of Manchild is in everything I've published so far. I've published Seasons, volumes 1 and 2, Lifeline, which is a standalone graphic novel, and then Manchild. It's sort of like my trilogy of like the theme of change, and how change is a natural process and is a necessary process for evolving as a human being. And so Manchild is sort of the finishing in that trilogy of what change means. And so the Monarch-Crier, I've always loved butterflies. They've always been my favorite insect, and I thought it was a great symbol and picture of as Rufus is someone who is very, again, like I said, kind of stuck, seeing this butterfly character, seeing like the logical conclusion to a transformation, a metamorphosis. It's like we as a reader and we as like superhero fans, we look at superheroes and we think, that's who I want to be. That's who I want to be, and how I want to look. I want the girl. I want to be able to fly around. I want to have powers. I want all
big
of those
burly
things.
muscles.
Yeah, like and as a kid, that's what you want. And so it's meant to kind of symbolize where Rufus is and where the Monarch-Crier is, and if they're ever able to meet in the middle somehow.
No, that is awesome. I think this gives us the perfect segue to meet in the middle and check out this Kickstarter campaign that you have running for issues 1 and 2. So let's go ahead and switch over to there and see what all the hype is about. And let me get it pulled up on my end. So we are looking at Manchild issue 1 and 2, The Silver Age meets the modern day. Monarch-Crier and Rufus return as fantasy and reality collide in this tribute to the work and life of Stan Lee and comic book fandom. Currently at $1,923 of a goal of $4,500. 70 backers with 26 days left to go. Congratulations. It looks like you're off to a fantastic start with just 4 days in. How are you feeling? Like, is this your first campaign? Have you done other previous like crowdfunding Kickstarters before?
Yeah, this is actually going to be my 5th Kickstarter campaign.
Let's go. Okay.
Yeah. So I've done about one a year since I started with Seasons Volume 1, and I've been really trying to do more if I can, but finances always get in the way. But I try to at least do one a year. And so yeah, I'm really excited about this campaign. This has been probably as far as numbers wise, I think this has been my biggest strongest launch that I've had the most numbers, the most amount of backers in this short amount of time. So I'm like super ecstatic, and it's really interesting because I know it's my fifth, but because the numbers are so great, it doesn't mean that I can just like chill. Like you always have to be on the hustle, you know? And so there's a part of me that's like, oh, this is awesome, you know, like maybe I don't have to work as hard, but then I'm like, no, wait, like that's the opposite way to do this. Like,
you got to work harder.
Yeah, you got to work harder, you know, and I'm just like, you know, it never ends. But that's, you know, I love doing shows like this. I love doing interviews, and I love talking about the book because it's very important to me, and I want people to enjoy it. You know, I want to get it in their hands and make people go, man, like this is something that I've been waiting for. I really, with this series, you know, for me, it's like, it's a way to bring back old readers who kind of want to like relive their glory days of like reading older comics. But it's also a celebration of modern day readers and what modern day like comic book fans like, and trying to bring them together for this one book, and trying to make everyone happy, you know, and then be like, okay, like you're going to enjoy this either way.
No, absolutely. Let's go ahead and check out this video and, you know, see a little bit more what the hype's about.
Sure.
Oops. I love that cover right there. Is gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah, that's by Jim Rugg. I'm award-winning comic book writer Nandor Shaffer, and welcome to my 5th Kickstarter campaign where, with your support, we hope to raise enough funds for the production and printing of Man-Child Issue 2. Spinning directly out of the events of Man-Child Issue 1, Monarch-Crier is held captive on Professor Pilgrim's mysterious island and faces off against a menacing robot of giant-sized proportions. Meanwhile, Rufus and gang attend the midnight showing of the most anticipated superhero movie of the year. Will it live up to their expectations? Find out in the next installment to this fun, heartfelt exploration of comic book culture with an action-packed superhero adventure twist. Last year, 163 backers came together to bring the premiere issue of this series to the masses, and the books came out better than I could have ever imagined. Myself, artist Jay Mazar, and letterer DC Hopkins are aiming to bring the same quality to the second issue with every page. We're bringing back the same exciting rewards to this campaign, like being able to be drawn to the story, getting the original page from the series, getting your name in the acknowledgement section of the book, and getting your original ink sketch from Jay Mazar himself. Man-Child Issue 2 also has show-stopping variant covers from two of the very best comic book artists in the industry right now. I'm talking about Jim Rugg, who you may know from the Cartoonist Kayfabe YouTube channel, and painter extraordinaire Marco Rudy. You can also get the previous variant covers from the first issue in the add-on section of this campaign. These include variant covers from Eisner Award-winning artist Tony Harris, Tom Riley,
That's gorgeous
Welby,
too. All
and
these
Nick
covers
Pitara.
look just amazing.
If you're looking for a comic book story filled to the absolute brim with heart, humor, a passion and love for superheroes, a story that celebrates comic book fandom and honors the life and legacy of Stan Lee. If you've never picked up a comic book before, or you're wanting to get back into comics, then Man-Child is a book for you. There's so much in store for these characters, and you're going to want to be a part of it, so please back this campaign today, and let's rediscover together why superheroes and comic books are so special. Thank you.
So I love the little the horsey. I see it in the theater. There was like a little My Little Pony like nod. It said horsey.
Yeah. Right. I'm glad you noticed that.
No, that was cool. And so let's talk a little bit about that gigantic robot. That seems like a nod to the Sentinels from X-Men.
You're so right. That's exactly what I was going for. And I was working with my artist Jay on it, and I was like, okay, this is what we want. We want like a little bit of Sentinels, and then there are also these classic robots from the Captain America comics from World War II called the Sleepers, and they were like these huge. They're made by the Nazis and all of that, and they like awakened later when Steve Rogers comes back from falling out of the ice. They awaken later, and he has to fight them. And so yeah, I wanted like some of those design elements, and we came upon, I think, a really sweet merging of the two, and it turned out really great. I told Jay, you know, in the book itself, when we first see the robot, he's emerging from the ocean like a deep sea creature.
Oh,
like
that's so cool.
Yeah, like a kaiju, you know, coming out of the water. And so like that's where that came from. And I when I was writing the issue, like when I was getting ready to write issue 2 at the time, I was like, we need a freaking giant robot. Like we need like a giant robot. Like there's just
kind of reminds me of that's how Iron Giant, I think, started too, right? Like the giant robot like walking from water, I think.
Yeah.
Or
yeah,
either in the animation or in the original story. I get stuck on the like there's these YouTube deep dives where they'll just talk about animations and like old cartoons, and like I will listen to those things for like hours. It is
right.
So totally. Right here is a free Kickstarter exclusive art print for all backers who back a physical reward tier. So this is done in the first week. So you still have a couple days left to get this print. This is a pretty gorgeous looking print as well.
Yeah, that funny story about that. I got that print and the art for it. I had hired the artist a month or 2 ago, and he said he was going to be able to finish it by the time. And he finished it like an hour before the campaign went live, and it was just like holding on to hope, hoping that he'd be able to finish it in time. And
but it looks gorgeous. Yes.
Yeah, he did such an amazing job. And when he sent it to me, he was like, oh, there's a few things I need to change and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, it's perfect. Like it looks great.
It looks like Flops. Yeah, Flops Comics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Dude, I have literally 3 of his prints on my wall right now. I love his style so much.
Isn't he amazing? He's so good.
Yes.
He's so good. He needs to be like doing stuff all the time. And his retro style was like perfect for a retro book. So.
Mm-hmm. And then here is a larger close up at some of the other variants as well. So this is the one with the robot walking out of the water.
Yeah, and that is done by I don't know if you ever watched the Cartoonist Kayfabe YouTube channel, but they do they come out the video every day, and they go behind like process and comics of all types and sorts. And it's Jim Rugg and Ed Piskor, and I highly recommend the channel. They're amazing artists, and what they do is they just do all of these deep dives into the way comics are made, and
that's awesome,
interviewing artists and all this stuff. And so Jim Rugg, one of the hosts, he did this cover. He's an artist himself, and I hired him for that, and it was just like a dream experience for me because I'd been watching their videos for so long, and I was like, oh my gosh, I get to work with him. And he he knocked it out of the park. I love it so much. It's so like, I love how they're like about to meet each other head on, you know, it's like, and it has that underdog effect too.
And this is a really breathtaking cover. I mean, there's like, this is just gorgeous, like swimming with color.
Yeah, that's by Marco Rudy, and he worked on Swamp Thing with Scott Snyder in the New 52 era, and he also worked on the Winter Soldier series with Alice Cott, and he's done a few other X-Men and Scarlet Witch stuff recently for Marvel. So he is all that's traditionally painted with like oil paintings. Like none of it's digital; it's all by hand, traditionally painted. And
I bet in person this looks insane.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing.
This is awesome. And then this is another cool cover too. So does this happen? Like, do we see the superhero fighting like on screen, or how does this work within the world?
Right. So it's as we get to the preview pages in the campaign, it kind of explains it. But this cover is really representative of a really cool sequence in the second issue where Rufus and his friends are going to see this comic book movie, and they sit down, and the projector light goes on, and the movie's about to start. And it's as a writer, it was the perfect transition point to since these characters are about to, enter a fantasy world, enter a movie, and about to see this story unfold. For me, it was like the perfect transition to take you back to where the Monarch-Crier is for the reader. So they're not watching the Monarch-Crier. The Monarch-Crier is not like a part of a film or anything, but just as like kind of a meta way of bridging the gap between fantasy and reality, and being like, you know, you're reading about fake characters, like watching like fake characters in the world, you know. So it's kind of that, like, you know, I don't know,
Inception really, type level of stuff.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, just, you know, keep going down the levels there. And so yeah, anyways, that moment there, it's I thought it'd be cool to, like, it's just a great picture of like that idea and that theme of reality and fantasy together.
And then speaking of preview, here is a look at some of the interiors. So I really love the colors and the art. It really takes me back to like the Silver Age. Like, you know, did you want to create a comic in that style? Was Seasons and Lifeline in any way or shape or form like in a similar style, or no?
Not at all. Yeah, Seasons is very much like a very raw black and white experimental type of like realistic book. And then Lifeline, I worked with 7 different artists from all around the world, and they each contributed a different chapter. So they all had different art styles, but none of it was Silver Age or like very superhero and aesthetic. And so yeah, I looked for a really long time for someone that could do this. And Jay, he did a lot of noir stuff. He hadn't done I don't think any superhero stuff before, or like sequentials at least. He had done some pinups of some characters, but so it was funny when I reached out to him about this book. You know, I pitched it to him, and he was like, you really think like I can do this? Like, and I'm like, oh yeah, you can. Like, I know you can do this. And so I just saw something in him, and I loved his style. It reminded me of kind of Chris Somney and some Mike Allred, and a little like little that Steve Ditko-esque in terms of the figure and the shapes and forms that he does. So you know, I just thought that's what I'm looking for, and I knew that he would just be perfect. But it's also clean enough, and I think streamlined enough that like when you're in the superhero, when you're reading the superhero pages and in that world, it's not jarring when you get to the real world, because it still feels very down to earth and grounded. So I wanted to like find someone that could, you know, definitely capture both.
I love that you guys had that initial interaction, and then looking at these interiors and seeing like how he went about like creating this world. It's mind-blowing that he even questioned his ability to begin with, because this is gorgeous. Yeah.
I know, it's like no, man, don't, you know, like, I believe in you. It's like you have to really champion your artist and be like, hey, I know you can do this. And yeah, we've made some really, like, this is his best work that he's ever done. He's really amazing.
No, this is gorgeous. And then right here, for everyone that is watching, this is a link to the Kickstarter. Be sure to check this out with us. If you're unable to back, sharing this on just Facebook or Twitter is 100% free, and word of mouth will help get this comic out to anyone, you know, that you're friends with. You're gonna probably have someone on your list who's going to love this story. So lifelong fans of this book, you know, if you love you know, the Lee, Kirby, and Ditko era of comic books, Mr. Miracle, Astro City, Madman, and Black Hammer, a lot of great titles there too. Holy crap, man. And then here are the rewards. So do these all like go side by side with the ones on the, you know, the scrolling ones? Yeah, they do. Okay. So you can get an issue of you can get issue 2 PDF for $5. For 10, you're gonna get issues 1 and 2 for the PDFs. $10 for a standard cover physical, and then $15 for a standard covered sign. So this is gonna come with a Kickstarter exclusive art print, and this is the print right here. Yeah, that's it. That's right. Yeah, that's gorgeous. Yeah, that's cool. And then also all physical backers are going to get that one print that was shown up right up here, right? That's right. Yeah. But that's only for the next couple of days. So click fast. Yeah, it'll end
Thursday night. So you have until next Thursday night to get it.
And then for 15, we also have the start of the first variant. We have the Marco Rudy variant cover. For 20, you're going to get the Jim Rugg variant. So for $5 more. At 20, you're also going to get issues 1 and 2 physical standard covers. 25, you're going to get both of those signed with the Kickstarter exclusive print. So was this print from like the first campaign?
No, that's totally new for this campaign. Yeah.
We have the variant cover of your choice signed with art print for 25. 30, we got the retailer bundle, 5 copies. And then 45, Manchild issue number 2, all covers. So that's the standard with 2 different variants?
Correct. Yeah.
Cool. For $5 more at 50, you have a name in the acknowledgments and standard cover signed with art print. And then 95. So this is the heavy hitter, the Foxhole Comics bundle. Give us a little bit about this tier.
Yeah. So if you are interested in sort of my evolution as a writer and my history as a writer and where I've come from, this bundle is for you, and you're getting a really great deal because you're getting over 300 pages of stories.
Wow.
300 pages of comics. 2 of those are hardcover graphic novels, and those are Seasons volumes 1 and 2. So you're getting and each over 100 pages each on those hardcovers. So you're getting them for a really value price. Just 200 pages there for these 2 hardcover graphic novels that are over 100 pages. And then you have Lifeline, which is a perfect bound trade paperback, which is 96 pages. And then Manchild issues 1 and 2, which together is 48 pages. Each issue of Manchild's 24 pages there. So do the math, it's for $95. You get all of this, and you get to see where I really came from, how I started out. And all of these are, of course, signed by me. And they're just these like Seasons, just real quick as a pitch. Seasons is a supernatural superhero, late coming of age type of story that follows this young man through 1 year of his life. And with each passing season, his abilities change. So the powers that he has in the first volume, as we get to volume 2, they're completely different. And he has to cope with his this knowledge of him being able to do these things that he had never expected, and kind of entering this world where there are these shadow selves of people that he knows and these other elemental figures. And it's very much like a fever dream. Like you're reading the comic and you're just like, what the hell is happening? But you're also like, this is freaking cool at the same time, So
are you gonna, not to interrupt, are you gonna have like other seasons coming out? I noticed there's only 2.
Totally, yeah. So we got spring and summer, and we're gonna be launching fall very soon. We're still in the process of working on volume 3 and kind of figuring out how we want to go about that. But yeah, so it's gonna be 4 volumes, and so the first 2 volumes are out. And we still got fall and winter to go. And then I sort of talked about Lifeline earlier, but it's this life story of this one guy, and you see his life through the eyes of those closest to him. So each chapter in the book is from the perspective of someone else, but about him. So like the first chapter is from the perspective from his father. The second chapter is from the perspective of his girlfriend at the time, who becomes his wife, and each chapter it takes place in a different decade of his life. So you're going through his entire life through the eyes of different people.
That's really unique. Holy crap,
and
dude.
Each artist each chapter is done by a different artist, so you really get that sense of like change, and each artist like fits the flavor of the story and all of that. So you're getting a lot there because you get to see all of these different styles kind of come together. And so there's that one, and then Manchild. So you get all of this for $95, and it's a really great deal.
Holy crap. I just love how seasons, like it correlates with the different seasons. Are we gonna see any more of like maybe a darker twist with like it being fall and winter? I know those 2 seasons are like typically symbolized with more darker themes.
Definitely. Yeah. Fall is the big one. Fall is going to be really, really huge for the series. So, I'm really excited about it, but also I'm like, it's going to be a big undertaking.
Dude, let's go. So for $100 back into the Kickstarter, it looks like we can get the original ink sketch, signed cover, and art print with the name and acknowledgements. So right here is the ink sketch that we're looking at, or can they have anything sketched?
They can have any character they want sketched, just as long as it's not like an OC or original character. So it can be someone that, like, it can be Spider-Man, it can be, any character, it can be anyone from the Man-Child universe. And that is an example of what a backer got last campaign for the first issue. So you're going to get it's not even like a little paper sketch or anything. It's like, a 8x10 sketch, ink sketch. So it's really like a great value, and it's not just a pencil drawing.
And then it looks like for $150 you can get drawn into Man-Child issue 2 with a standard cover art print, name in the acknowledgements, and the original ink sketch. So are we looking at just a random like character to the side, or what type of importance are they going to have within the comic?
So with our first issue, we had 2 people that wanted to be drawn into it, and one of them actually had some bits of dialogue with Rufus in the comic itself, and then one of them was just kind of a behind the scenes character, but still very like seeable in the story. He wasn't like behind anyone. So it kind of depends on where we place them, but you definitely have the possibility of like interacting with the characters themselves. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we have, topping it off at 200, the original page from Man-Child 2, also drawn into the story. So I mean, for $50 more, you're going to get an original page from the comic itself, drawn into the story, standard cover, art print, name and acknowledgements, and the original ink sketch as well. Man, I am always a sucker when you can get a chance to get the original art from the comic.
Yeah.
In the day and age of digital, it seems like this is becoming, such a fleeting thing.
Totally. And it's something that I love to, frame and put up on my wall and be like, this is someone that, this is something that someone like sweat over, it's like they put their work into it. Excuse me. And it just like makes me really happy. I have art hung up on my wall, and I'm like, that's a really special thing to have. And it's signed, of course, by Jay, and we had a couple people pledge for that in our last campaign. And that's what you get. Like the example there, it's like you get a fully original page, but besides colors, but all of the colors are digital. But yeah, it's an 11x17 original page from the comic. And if you wanted a page from issue 1, we can totally do that too.
That's awesome. Here's some of the add-ons that we're looking at. So we have that print, a little bit larger look at it as well for the Kickstarter exclusive.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you picked a tier that didn't come with the print, like, I don't know, like all of the variant covers, or if you wanted to add the print onto it, so you can get that print in the add-on section.
And you have the Well-Be variant cover for $15.
Yeah, so all of these are variant covers from issue 1. So
Okay.
if you wanted the first issue, but you wanted one of the variant covers, all of those are available in the add-on section as well.
Dude, these are so gorgeous. I really like this Tom Riley one. Like this is it reminds me almost of that like 70s like trippy feeling.
Yeah, totally.
Then some of the stretch goals. So Man-Child sticker at 5,000. Is this a look at the sticker? Or is this
That's it. Yep. That's
this is. I love the fly swatter.
Yeah, isn't it adorable? It's so much fun. Yeah. So every backer will get that sticker if we hit that stretch.
Okay. And we have the Man-Child pin at 6,500, a Man-Child trading card at 7,500, and then a Man-Child t-shirt add-on and expedited shipping at 10,000. So here is a look at the funds as well and where it's going.
Yeah, that's just a little breakdown so I can let people know like where all the money's going to, what costs what. All of it's very transparent in that way. All of the funds that we get, it all goes into the comic. Like there's none for us. It all goes to the artist and to the letterer and the printing and shipping and all of that.
and then a quick look at the creators involved. So we've already broke down who you are. Let's go ahead and shout out some of the other creative team as well. So let's begin with your artist.
Yeah, so yeah, Jay Mazar, he is an incredible artist. He I don't know where he resides in California right now, and I believe he grew up in like Michigan, or he went to school in Michigan. But he lives in California. This is his first like ongoing book that he's worked on. He's done a few other one shots and things like that, but he is really this up and coming guy who is looking to break into the industry, and he's a really fun. We've like really created a great friendship over the last year or two, and like we'll just talk on the phone and like hang out and talk and stuff. So he's a really cool guy.
No, and I think that's always awesome when you can have that type of relationship with your artist, because it's gonna like go hand in hand with the creative process as well, right? Like if you two can vibe on that level, like just outside of the comic, then you're gonna kill it together, creating it.
Definitely.
We have DC Hopkins, your letterer.
Yeah, he is like an extraordinary letterer. Like lettering can really make or break your book. If you have bad lettering, like no one's going to want to read it because it's not readable. And so for this series, I really wanted someone who was really professional. And DC has worked with all of the major publishers, and he's doing stuff for a lot of big guys right now. He just announced that he's working on the next book that David Marquez is doing, his own creator-owned. And David Marquez did a lot of the Ultimate Spider-Man and some other Marvel books. But he's worked with Dark Horse, Image, Boom, just like he's been everywhere, and he's just like such a great guy. And he also does all of the designs. So like for the Kickstarter campaign, like he put all of these designs together and all of that stuff. And so he's just like incredibly humble, such a good guy, and his lettering is so professional.
Oh, that is awesome. And then I always ask this question right here. So I love that you have it included into the Kickstarter, but we'll go over that in just a few seconds. Was this your entire Kickstarter though?
It is. Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and pivot back to our main screen. Give me just 2 seconds. All right, and that leads me actually to that question. So with us going through your Kickstarter in its entirety, for anyone that's on the fence about backing, what would you say to them directly to kind of help push them over that fence?
You're going to read this comic and you're going to reread it and reread it to figure out where is this going? Why is this happening? Are there little Easter eggs and tidbits that I missed? And there are. That's the thing. Like, you're not looking for something that isn't there. Like, it's there. And I want to reward you for your investment and your time. And it's a book that if you've ever just kind of brushed on superheroes and you're kind of like, oh, they're just not that interesting, or I've read a few, but I'm not really like into that genre. Manchild is there to change your mind. It's there to be like, okay, superheroes are really exciting, and they always have been. And this is kind of a way to rediscover and a reintroduction into what makes superheroes so inspiring and what makes their sense of justice and selflessness just very attractive and magnetic for a fan and a reader. And so on that front, it's for everyone who might be interested in superheroes but hasn't read a superhero comic. And then for those that like adore superheroes, you're gonna adore it. You're gonna adore this book because you're gonna read it and you're gonna go, this guy knows what he's talking about, because I've read so much stuff. I'm a huge nerd and nut when it comes to character histories and lore. As a kid, I would read all of the like Marvel encyclopedias and DC encyclopedias and read about like all the different characters and where they premiered and what issue and their first appearances. And so and the book celebrates that. It's a celebration of your inner child, and it's a celebration of what makes the comic book fandom so like exciting to be a part of, and like such a community. And also how our differences do not define us. It's the way that we are able to have conversations with each other, just like the way like you read an issue or you read a storyline and the guy's like, I hated that book, but then you're like, I love that book, and you talk about why you did or didn't like it, and but you still connect over it. And that's
Yeah.
something that this book is about. It's about that connection and about um, having that with each other and celebrating that. So um, it it really is a love letter to traditional classic comic book storytelling, but also to what makes fandom so great.
I love that. That is awesome. Man, this has been such an awesome podcast. I really appreciate you coming on here, breaking down Manchild and everything in between. Before we end things completely, though, as much as this is a podcast where we really break down who you are and your book, it's also a nice learning platform because a lot of new creators like listening. You know, sometimes they take advice, sometimes, you know, they just like listening to the backstory and learning, you know, what they could do to get their book out there. So with that being said, for anyone who's out there creating and maybe they're struggling just getting going, what type of advice would you offer them just to kind of help them push through that barrier and just get started?
Take your time. Really take your time and save your money. No one is going to be excited about your book as much as you, and it's important for you to be excited about it. So if you're struggling to be excited about it, and maybe you need to take some time to find that again, that's totally okay. But it's also you got to go back to, why am I doing this? Why am I making this? Like, what is my end goal? You know, for me, it was, I want to leave something behind, you know, after I pass away. I want something to be there that is for people to cherish and love, and I want something that lasts. And so I always go back to that. And you need to find that thing that will push you through all of those moments of doubt. And you know, don't listen to what anyone else says. You know, just listen to yourself and trust yourself in your ability to create your project and to finish your project and make it the best you can. And that's all you can do. And as long as, you know, you are putting in the work and the effort and the time, and you're doing the best that you can do, don't compare yourself to others, but the best that you feel you can do, then you're on your way.
I love that. That is an awesome piece of advice. I really think, you know, just doing what you want to do and loving it because you love to do it, you know, that's going to be what carries you through a lot of those moments where you really start to doubt yourself. And I think thank you. That was awesome advice. Thank you once again for swinging by, breaking down Manchild and Nandor. This has been such an awesome talk. For everyone watching, here is the link once more. Be sure to check it out. And if you can't back it, simply share it on Facebook, Twitter. Word of mouth is 100% free, and you might know someone who is going to love this book. With that being said, have a fantastic Sunday night, but most importantly, guys, keep it geekly.